If you don't know, my husband and I had 2 miscarriages in 2024. It was a lot. I felt like God at the end of 2024 was saying to not try again in 2025, and then at the beginning of 2025, my husband was like, I really feel like God is telling us to rest this year. We officially decided that 2025 we would not try at all. Just to give a little bit of a timeline, in 2024 in February, we tried for the very first time for a baby. In March, we found out we were pregnant. In April, we found out that we miscarried. May, I was waiting to miscarry. June, I actually miscarried. July was the first month that was somewhat normal. And then August, we decided to try again. Found out we were pregnant in September. Found out we miscarried in October. Waited all of November to miscarry and had a D&C in December. And in the nature of our second pregnancy, which was a partial molar, we weren't done with that miscarriage officially until April of 2025. So it has been a lot. Now that we're over halfway through the year, I kind of wanted to catch up a little bit. It definitely is still something on AJ and I's mind all the time. We're kind of trying to slowly start thinking about what it would look like for us to try again. But honestly, we're not even thinking that far, to be honest. But we know it's coming. For us to decide to not try all of 2025 was definitely a sacrifice. It wasn't an easy decision, mainly because we obviously very much wanted to start our family. We had waited till 2024 to kind of start things. To give it up in 2025 was a really scary thing to do. It was my dream to have our first kid before I turned 30, and really now, like, that's an impossible thing. So it was a really hard thing to give up and give to God and trust that his timing is better than ours, and that rushing it in our timing isn't what we want. In the end, we are surrendered to his timing, but it wasn't an easy decision. It was easy in terms of, like, we were worn out and had a lot to process through. It kind of reminds me of, like, when they tell you going through a breakup, like if you've been together for 2 years, you need at least like 2 years to process it or something. Each baby, each pregnancy, we needed to like reach those milestones and like grieve it fully. And giving up this kind of dream of mine of motherhood before I'm 30, I realized how much of an idol it is in today's society. Depending on what side of TikTok, of the internet you're on, especially in Christian circles, motherhood is idolized a lot, and I don't think people really realize it. The way people on the internet, friends, people I know, talk about motherhood, it feels so icky. It feels like something that is like the ultimate status symbol, the ultimate prize, the meaning of life. But I feel like with people like Nara Smith and the ballerina farmer, you see having more kids being pushed. And even in my own life and people that I know, they're just talking about having the next kid and the next kid and as many kids as you can. And like it almost is like this like response to what the other side of the culture is doing, which is not having kids. I feel like Christians are now pushing kids and motherhood. So that's been really hard to see. I see so many quotes of motherhood, and one that hurts the most is, you know, my hands might be full, but thank God they're not empty. I understand like the meaning behind that. I get it. I totally get it, because being in a place where my hands are empty and honestly got ripped my babies away from me twice, like, yeah, you don't want to be in the position I'm in, but also it doesn't mean that that's the end of the world. I think it just is like pushing this narrative that if you're not a mother, if you don't have kids, it's like the end of the world. I don't know. So yeah, just something to think about. I definitely am learning still to give up my idolization of motherhood and being a mother, because it definitely feels like I'm not in the club. I'm not a part of the mom club. I'm not a part of the like saints of motherhood, you know, like I'm not in that group, you know, and it just, I think, is misplaced, because in the end, life is not about being a mom. Life is about God and what he does with your life, and being a mom is a part of your story. That's amazing. That's such a blessing. That's a beautiful thing. And I understand that there really is nothing like having a kid and loving your kid and everything, which is obviously what makes miscarriage so hard. But I just feel like motherhood gets put above God a lot of times, and in this break I have noticed that a lot, because the worst happened to us not once but twice, and even like a third time with our second miscarriage being a partial molar pregnancy. It just feels like that's what's going to happen to us all the time. I have a lot of fear and anxiety about things just going wrong constantly. That's going to be a really hard thing to beat when we do start trying again. Now it's not even that I expect a miscarriage, I just expect us not even to be able to get pregnant or something. I just am definitely trying to learn how to surrender that to God, my anxiety and fear around that, because that's not of the Lord, and I don't want our third pregnancy to be covered by that. I forget what they call it, but I think it's, oh yeah, hypochondriac. I think I'm a little bit like that, where I think that everything's wrong with me. I just like start to panic and get really fearful of like my body and things going wrong. And I think it just comes from 2 miscarriages of like not feeling symptoms anymore, or like when I was waiting to naturally miscarry and stuff. Like I was just so analytical of my body and what was happening, and I'm really scared of that again. Kind of along with that, I'm scared to give up my body again and have my body be used. I get dreadful morning sickness, and the second pregnancy was even more elevated because it was a partial molar, making my pregnancy completely miserable. Even after we found out we miscarried, I was throwing up for weeks, if not months after that, and it was torture. And so to go through days and days and weeks of morning sickness just to grieve your baby and to bleed them out, I don't want to do that again. So I'm dreading having my body be a place that fluctuates, changes, aches, and feels pain and nauseous and miserable. I'm so not looking forward to having my body be used, because every time it's been used in pregnancy, it's just been the place where my baby dies. It's just scary, obviously. I'm really scared to tell people that we're pregnant. I don't know how we're gonna do that again. I feel like with our second baby, Sunny, we really had this belief of like, we are going to hope for the best. We are going to not act like everything's normal, but like believe for the best. And so we told everyone, we tried to record reactions and stuff because we really believed it. Like this was what God could redeem, you know? And when it didn't work out, it's so sad, but I'm so glad that we had celebrated Sunny and had everything documented. But this time it just feels exhausting. I don't want to put our family through that. I don't want to put our friends through that. Even more than last time, it feels like we've been robbed not only of a normal pregnancy excitement, we even got robbed of the second time around after a loss where you're kind of coming back. Now it just feels like we're just gonna be holding our breath the whole time, you know? Like I don't really know how else to do it right now. So I'm praying that by the time we try again and hopefully get pregnant, that we will have kind of honestly the same outlook that we did with Sunny, where there is really nothing to do but hope and be celebratory and have joy over the life that's in me. It just feels like we will be dragging everyone else with us in just an inevitable other miscarriage. And it almost in a way now like doesn't feel worth celebrating, which is so sad. And I think that's why like second miscarriages are so hard. You know, people ask us when we're gonna try again, but then I feel like if we try again and miscarry, people will wonder why we keep trying. Oh my gosh, like they're just the people who have miscarriage. They should be used to it. They have miscarriages. I kind of can feel this like label of miscarriage being over us. I don't know. I just feel this battle of like, oh, well, like why don't you try again? But we miscarry. Oh, like why are you trying? Like you obviously like can't have a baby. I don't know if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that anyone has like said that or anything. I know that after the second miscarriage, the support was less, and I understand, but it was when we needed it more. I think that's another thing that scares me. Is like, I don't know how I'd respond. I can't even comprehend like losing a third baby. But obviously I think the thing that sucks is I'm more prepared for that and expecting that to happen than actually having a baby. For AJ and I, we just like every time we see a pregnancy test, every time I have pregnancy symptoms, every time we think about trying, we just automatically think miscarriage. That's just what happens to us. We get a pregnancy test positive, miscarriage. Pregnancy test positive, miscarriage. So like, why would we assume different? It's hard to not do that, and especially when it's the worst thing that AJ and I have ever been through, and honestly has left us scrambling to put the pieces together. It's like, I'm worried that if we go through a third one, I just don't know what I would do. I already didn't think I'd be strong enough to make it through one miscarriage, and two, I just feel like I barely, you know, made it out. I do know that with the Lord, I have seen how good he is and how strong he is, and that like I don't need to make it through, but like he will lead me through. I think the thing that we're really leaning on is when God tells us it's time to try again, we will try again, and it's going to be in his timing. It's crazy how unappealing trying again sounds. It does not sound appealing to me at all. I'm so grateful that we're not kind of like rushing ourselves to get pregnant. I'm so glad that at least like we're free of that pressure. I do still feel it sometimes, especially like we've, you know, decided to wait a year. So within that year, obviously even more people in our life or friends, you know, from afar are pregnant. So it's really honestly still painful to see other people enter parenthood when you thought that you would already be there. It just like feels like we're stuck. I also do have a lot of peace of where we're at with this. Like we really couldn't have tried again any earlier. Like it just wouldn't have. I'm grateful for where we are. I have peace in where we are, but it's still just sucks. I'm also really scared if we do have third miscarriage, what to do. The first one, I naturally miscarried, which was honestly a really great experience, minusing it being very painful and terrible. Second one is kind of traumatizing because I thought I could miscarry naturally, but it ended up being tumorous cells that were in me along with my baby, and my body wasn't registering it to miscarry, so I had to have a D&C. Both experiences honestly were great in different ways, I guess you could say, but I really don't want to have another D&C, but I also really don't want to risk an infection or having another partial molar pregnancy. So I don't know, I'm scared about that. I really don't look forward to possibly having to make that decision again. If we have a third miscarriage, what does that mean now? What does that mean for us? Will we ever be able to have kids? Will we be adopting? Is this the last try for us? We kind of have to make those decisions eventually. It just feels really scary. It just feels really final. The unknown always kind of sucks, and I just wish I could know if we'd be able to have our own kids or not, but you don't until you go through it. And if we go through another miscarriage and have 3, I just don't know how much more we can take if we try again. So it kind of just leaves this question of like, now what? Is this over for us? Or is this just the end, you know? And I kind of don't want to face that question really right now. I also can't even think about what a pregnancy past the first trimester, it doesn't even feel real. If we made it and had a baby, I think we'd be so shocked that we actually have a baby. Like, I don't think we'd actually even know what to do. It kind of starts to feel like having a baby and the blessing of pregnancy is something that's for other people, and I just kind of haven't started to wonder if I'll ever be able to be pregnant and experience birth. It just, again, feels like a blessing that is for other people. I will say though, there are some things that I am excited about with trying again. I think ultimately I'm just excited to get a third shot at giving it to God. The first one, I definitely felt like a lot of things were in my control and that I could control a lot. If I ate the right things, if I did the right things. And then the second one was even less of like, this is the Lord's and I am just a part of this. So the third one, I really am excited to have another opportunity to surrender this to God and kind of like let him use me. Because again, what I've learned is it's not about us. It's not about me being a mom. Like, that's not what I'm putting my hope in anymore, because I can't. I can't. That's not what life is about. It's just not. I think I'm gonna feel really honored to get a chance to be pregnant again and to be surrendered to God, and like I said, like let him use me and use our baby, and Lord willing, hopefully we get pregnant. You know, I've definitely learned in my life that I have no reason to doubt God's timing. For AJ and I, we just feel like this is his timing. I have learned now to come to peace with it, but I think when you go through a miscarriage, a lot of people say, you know, oh, it's just like wasn't time. I feel like really only the person who's going through the miscarriage can really finally say that, you know, because it was our time with that baby. It was what we thought was the time. Like, we obviously got pregnant and I made it however many weeks and it was the time. Then it got taken away from us. Until you come to peace with your story and how God is working through it, like I feel like it's really hard to hear things about timing and it not being the right time. Kind of along those same lines, I'm also really excited to not hyper fixate on everything I'm eating, doing, not doing, especially after going through 2 and doing different testing and hearing a ton of opinions, which I appreciate, but also I've heard the same 1,000 things like 1,000 times, because you hear so much about like, oh, it's the man's health, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, oh, it's because you're eating out of plastic, oh, it's because you're wearing polyester. I see so many people get pregnant on accident. I see so many people get pregnant and not even know it. I see so many people get pregnant and all they eat is fast food. I just think that God is ultimately in control in what he wants. I'm just so over trying to control everything and create the perfect scenario, because I see so many imperfect scenarios result in perfectly healthy babies. That's not to say that, you know, I'm gonna be reckless and, you know, not try or be unhealthy or something, but you kind of realize just how out of control you are regardless of how well you do and how much you exercise and how well you eat. I'm excited to give that up because that is really exhausting, especially if you're at all a part of like the crunchy community. You just constantly feel like you're doing something wrong. Yeah, it's honestly just exhausting. Obviously, I'm not ready to try again anytime soon right now. I'm really excited to talk with the Lord and see kind of how best AJ and I will view trying again. Telling friends, telling family, getting through the first trimester. Yeah, and even like telling the internet. I think now trying again the third time, I see more now why people don't tell people about miscarriage or about pregnancy, because if there was a third time, I would feel so burdensome to our friends and family, which just sucks. So it does make me not want to tell anyone at all about us being pregnant, or even honestly if we like miscarried a third time. Like, I don't want to deal with it again. I don't want people in our life to deal with it. I don't want people to feel even more like sensitive around us. And it just sucks because we didn't ask for this. We just asked to start our family. This is what's happening. I just view pregnancy and life and babies so differently now. I think one thing too that I have also been realizing is that pregnancy is not to have a baby. It is to have a person. After seeing a lot of my friends and family have babies, they're only babies for so long. Then you get a toddler and a first grader and a sixth grader. You're signing up only for a baby for a little bit, and then you get a full-on person. I'm really grateful that AJ and I have time to prepare for a person and to really be intentional about praying for that and preparing us for that, and not just having a baby who's super cute and cuddly. We want a person. We want to have God entrust us with who he wants, whether that's our own baby, whether it's a baby we adopt. I have no doubt in my mind that it's going to be the right person. God isn't going to mess that up. I haven't talked about like miscarriage stuff in a while. Honestly, in this time, it's been so nice to have things be light and fun, and it's summer. I've been loving doing YouTube, and it's just been such a gift, and I feel like it's been so relieving to not have things be so heavy. So I haven't really like talked through a lot of this. I know these videos aren't the most fun, but in the end, it's not just about miscarriage. It really is just about going through suffering and trusting God through it. And whether it's you trusting in God in your singleness or your career or financially, there's such refinement that happens with whatever sort of trial that you're going through. I just feel so grateful for the gold that God has formed in AJ and I just feel so grateful to have learned all of this wisdom going through having Shalom, having Sunny. And in the end, like, as hard as it is, and I would never wish it upon anyone, I wouldn't change our story. If you are interested, I have a miscarriage playlist with a ton of miscarriage chats just like this one. I'll try and link it or put it somewhere. If you would like to see more fun content, I do a lot of thrifting, lifestyle, vlogs and things, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I put up videos every Monday and Thursday, and I will see you guys in the next laundry chat.